back on the bench is the FMS FCX24, and we're going to try and change some parts today. I'm going to start off. Dereck said to me, "You got to get these. These are super cheap on AliExpress." So we brought the metal gear conversion kit, and it was really cheap. It was about £10.20 delivered. Took a couple of weeks, so that's not too bad at all. But Dereck said he had a bit of trouble fitting this because the holes didn't all weren't the right size, and he had to fettle them a little. Well, let's get one of the axles off and see what they're like. Now, to strip down the axle is quite easy. It's literally one screw each side. Quite a long little screw, but and you just literally pull off the whole axle. There we go. And then all that leaves you is I think it's 4 screws to the axle. Let's see. Got a feeling these could be the same size screws. No, they are. So I think they're slightly different. So keep your screws separate. And there we go, it comes off as easy as that. And there's the gear inside. Now, one thing I'm going to say is I've just noticed was there a different design? Because if you look at these, take the bearings off, probably one side's going to be a bit trickier. We'll take it gently. See what I mean? It's weird. It's got like a gear on it. So was it going to be a different design or something? It just seems weird to have gears everywhere. Never seen anything like that. Let's get out one of the diffs. Just taking any one by random, and let's see if they go on. Well, that one fitted. Let's try this side. Now this one, it's tighter. So one side fitted on with ease, the other side is not. But all it needed is just push the shaft on a couple of times, and now it's cleared. So not too bad. So that was quite good. So if yours is not too bad, you can get away with a bit of false. Just until they fit. Well, like I said, I don't know until I fit the other one. You know, it's Let's get the bearings on. And there we go. Now to strip off this bit, and of course it changes screws. There's my screwdriver. To get the standard drive shaft off, this is the only bit I'm concerned about, is will it fit. So there's a little literally a little posi drive screw, and the drive shaft comes straight off. So that's not hard. Let's push it out. There's the other little gear. Let's try and get this off. Yeah, because these are machined in from one piece, whereas these have to be for plastic gears. They have to be separate. This is on very tight. I don't know if I can get the screwdriver in yet. Yeah, this is the bit I'm having trouble with. It's getting the bearing off. So I'm going to see if this will undo. Take a chance. Well, that explains why the bearing won't come off. There is a step piece, and you have to take the screw out to get to the gear to release the bearing. So not too much hardship, but that slips on easy in the reverse order, so not too bad. Now we've got to try and drop it back in. So there we go, and then we've got to just try and get the drive shaft back on. Luckily it's only a 4 pieces, well 4 point, so it's easy, should be easy to line up. Hopefully I've got it, yeah, I've got it the right way. It can only go back one way, so it's not hard. See, I'm using the stock drive shafts. I don't know how Dereck's was, but no, they don't want to go on. Or is it? It's a little D shape. Can you see that? So it's just a case of getting it to line up. So that's me, not the car. There we go. We've got it to line up, and now one of the scary bits is not losing this screw as we try and put it back in. There we go. So not too bad to do. Just put the gear back together. So for anyone to fit, so far I would say these have not been bad at all off AliExpress. So then all we've got to do now is add some grease. Never hurts a load of grease in there. Find the diff. Just going to smear around again. Seat it in, and then it's just a case of putting it all back together. But I'll do the rest off camera, because it's just put 4 screws in, put the axles on now, and go from there. If I have any trouble with the front one, I will film that. But so far it was a little bit off the diff locker, but you can sort of gently push in and out until it clears the metal, or file it like Dereck did. Now on the front end it's a bit trickier. You can get the 2 screws out to get to the to try and get to things, and then I realised is the steering. So what I've done is I've cheated. I just turned the steering out and slightly moved the suspension and wound the screw out, and I'll do it from this end just to release the steering and work on, rather than take all the body off just to get to them and do the same. But you can just about, if you're careful, you can just about get a screwdriver in and undo the steering, like I'm doing now. Just slightly rubs against the arch. But there we go, you can sort of cheat a little bit and strip it that way, and then it should be the same, because I've not had the front ones off. Yeah, just pull them off like so. Now the front diff. This has been a nightmare. One side, this side, the longer one, it's took me ages to get it to fit, and it's still getting there. You know, it's hard to file in there, and the method I used to do it, I'm not going to tell you, but I eventually got it to fit. But I'm working it with grease now, so it'll go together loose. That makes sense, because you don't want it seizing, but see, it's getting better and better. The other side, that weren't too bad at all, but that just needs wearing the alloy a bit. I also did just gently file the shaft, because there is a slight, I don't know, you can see there was a slight burr, because if you file it flat and you get a dark and light bit, it weren't flat. So it doesn't hurt, gently. But now this is now coming alive. It's going on and off with ease. And then change the wheel, do both sides, make sure both fit. Now this one was a struggle. So I think it is partly these front drive shafts. I had no trouble with the rear. Nothing like this. Yeah, that's fitting nice now. So whenever you get the burr cleared, look, that's just sliding on and off perfectly. But once you start getting them going on and off, keep them on and off until it just wears the alloy enough, because it's very soft alloy. There we go. Because the last thing you want to do is put these on and then find out they won't fit. I'll add a bit more grease, just a smear. There we go, now we're sliding that one nicely. and I've just rotating them 2 ways. I want them to fit every single way possible. There you go, that one. And then back to this one, double check. So I hope Dereck puts in the comments which one he had trouble with. Then we'll have a comparison, see whether his was front or rear. And if it was both fronts the worst, then that would say to me it could be partly to do with the shaft, partly to do with this. So, or it's the luck of which one you use first. But I'm going to get it all back together now. We're all back together, and the steering's working. Still got its jitter. But the gears seem to be meshing very well, and I'm just giving it a run in, not under load, but they seem fine. So it weren't too bad, but I'd recommend when you do it is take the body off. It's easier to get to the steering screws. One thing to note is the bottom 2 screws on the axle are just the same, but the top 2 are longer because it holds the servo mount as well to the axle. Now the next part I've got to try and fit is, you know, I broke a link. Well, I've got some nice Treal, and now I'm going to see how to get them to fit, because I'm not quite sure at the moment. Now to the shafts, and this is where you run into your first got to think out the box. This is a ball and a ball, and the shock fits on the ball, and these shocks, like I said, I converted, they're leaking like badly. So maybe in the future a shock upgrade, because they're terrible. But let's take one of these links out. And there's the little link. Now fitting it to the centre is not a problem because it's just a screw and you've got the screws to do it. Where the problem comes is the shock. I've got to work out a way of fitting that. Like I said, we've got all the screws, because as you can see the screw is just about the size of the bottom, and I've got no balls or anything, so I've got to find something to fill that space up, and probably a washer to get these to fit, and then it will just be a case of the bolting through the whole lot together. So I'm going to have to go through my bits and see what I've got, but you see what I mean, it's like I said, there's plenty of thread on the screw, so I'll see what I can work out and then I'll show you. I'm prototyping my method, and I've got a bit of aerial tube run on, a washer on the screw. I'm going to try it with one O-ring, like so, from the other side, in between the link, because as you can see that's a pretty close fit. So I'm going to add one Tamiya O-ring, shame I didn't have any smaller, and then put the link on like that, and we'll wind this back on like so. I don't think the O-ring's helping, being truthful. It's a bit too thick, so what I might do is try a second washer and then the link back on. You know, it's trial and error, this thing is, if we're to get it to work. But like I said, this will do until time. I am not happy with that screw. It's not it's biting, but it's not good. And I haven't extended the width too much, if at all. So we'll put the screw back in the top. And then we'll remove the ball. I know you can't see it too much, but it's easy to get to. And then we'll just use one of these screws, the shorter ones. Yeah, these are the high clearance links. Yeah, they seem to work. It seems to work. It's not perfect. I might see if I've got longer screws of this size, because I'd rather it go a bit further into the plastic, or if not through slightly. But let's have a look. I wasn't pleased with the little bit of Tamiya aerial I was using, so I found this blue one. Probably Traxxas, isn't it? So I'm going to try that through with a washer. And these are stainless steel screws I had left over, which are much longer, so should do the job how I want it to work. There we go. Right. The plastic is a bit too long, so off again and a shorter bit of plastic. Yeah, I've done one side, and I'd recommend being really careful with these, pinging these off, because it's quite hard plastic and it is a worry. But my final result was the long screw, washer, bit of blue aerial tube, I think it's Traxxas, and then straight onto the link, and it screws on like so. So can you see it? The plastic holds it just away. The long screw goes all the way through, so if you did have any trouble, or if I did have any trouble, I can always pull a little nut on the end, which is so simple if required. Takes a while to wind it in. It tightens up, and if I do it at this angle, you might be able to see it a bit better. Just use the screw that comes with the kit on the front part of the link. But I think if you're doing the lower links, I would recommend getting if you're going to do that, do the shocks as well at the same time. I think it'll be easier, because it would have probably balls at the bottom, and it's just the screw all the way through. Like I said, where the bottom of these are double balls on the stock shock, and the stock shock and the link. See that? It you know, you can't get them to fit that, but you can have a close up of the link. See, it fits on really nice. You can see the washer, so there's no way the shock is going to play up. It's not too big, and those washers are actually left over from, I think, Tamiya kits I've used. So to finish off, I've just got to put the other two shocks on. Now we're all back together again, and one final test. Make sure we've not mucked everything up, because in the end I did have to take the top off, and somehow I've got a wire right in the poxy way when I clip the body on. See if I can just manoeuvre it a bit down. There we go, just needed a push. Now you can get to the switch. Hopefully I can. Well, the lights were working, so I don't know what happened there. But they're all working. But I lost my lights. I wonder if it's that wire again, you know. Still does that. But like I said, all the nice metal links are on. The shocks have been fitted with the original, and like I said, much longer screws. So I can always put a nut on. Now make it guaranteed it will never come undone if I have any issues. And I probably could even get little tiny nylocks for that. But on the conversions, the diff's not too bad. I did struggle with the front for some reason more than the back, getting them to fit. But you just got to work with them until they slide in. Try needle files or other methods, whatever you do to get them to work. The links, like I said, no problem except for the shocks, because they haven't got balls, a separate ball in the bottom. So all I did was just a little bit of this, I think it's Traxxas blue tube in the end I used. It's slightly thicker diameter than the Tamiya. And I used, like I said, the longer screws, and that's made the links fit perfectly. So it's all ready to get back out on the trails.